Guten Tag.
From Germany, we are. Yes, welcome to episode 18. This is going to be the best episode yet, but not quite as good as last episode. I can't possibly say it'll be better than last because that was our first ever guest, which we were so excited to have along. But before we do get into that, we are in Germany. That's why we just started with a German word, which Shelby's going to tell you exactly what it means.
Well, it's a greeting for hello during the day.
Hello during the day.
So I think it literally translates to good day. Guten, good, Tag, day. Yeah, I can't believe the podcast is 18 all grown up.
It is grown up. The legal age to drink in Europe at least. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. We've also learnt, well, Guten Tag is good day then. Hallo is hello. Moin?
Ah, yes, that's in the north.
Oh, it's just in the north, moin.
Well, I think throughout Germany, if you say moin, it'll be understood. But in the north, they go moin, moin.
Moin, moin.
Yeah. But it's really funny because, as we'll get onto your run, but at one of the pit stops, it was like in a campsite and there's a whole group of people. And every single time someone came, one person, like the new person will go moin, and then like the 5 people go moin, 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 moin. And like, it was just like, it reminded me of, the pigeons in Finding Nemo and like mine,
exactly.
mine.
That's
reminded me of that.
That's a great comparison.
That's exactly how it was.
Yeah, that's a great comparison. And what a good film.
A great film.
Nemo.
42 Wallaby Way, Sydney.
Exactly.
I apologise to all Australians.
That was great.
Involved.
And that maybe we'll be coming. We'll have an episode there soon. You never know.
Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed.
But speaking about that neck of the woods, we had a New Zealand guest, didn't we?
We did. Just next door to the Wallabies is New Zealand. And yeah, we had Nicole from Yarns for the Soul podcast. It's on Spotify and all other platforms, so please do go and give it a listen. We also, our episode is also, I believe it's on there now. It must be.
It is live today. Sorry, she sent me a message.
Okay, it's live today, so it will already be live for you guys.
2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago, yeah. Or a little bit less, but anyway. Yeah, so please go listen to it. Really nice. It was our first ever time going on a podcast together, and it was the first time we interviewed someone on our podcast. Mm-hmm. And it's interesting because, I don't know, I think every episode we sort of discover a bit more about what this podcast is about. But in essence, it's deep conversation. It's kind of a bit of a catch up about what we're up to, but we try to keep it on the highlights that are interesting rather than just giving you, a roundup of what we do, because that'd be a bit boring. But it's at the core of it, it's deep conversation. And, we like to, I think bringing someone onto the podcast made sense. And, I like, some podcasts are just devoted to interviewing people. I really like the blend of like just us two, and then maybe there's not even a cadence to it. Like sometimes we just bring on an interesting person, or maybe it'll end up being once a month. I don't know, but yeah. What do you think?
I think if we attempt once a month but don't hold ourselves to it, I think that would be a good amount of guests. If you are listening to this and you would like to be on our podcast, send an email.
Please do.
We'll see it in about 3 weeks.
No, we'll see it straight away.
Will we?
Yeah.
I never check that email.
I do.
Okay, good.
I do, because it's connected to our Google Docs and everything, and that's where we operate our episodes in. So it's Balls Deep Podcast Show at gmail.com. Balls Deep Podcast Show at gmail.com. So please do email us. We'd love to interview you. Let us know what's some interesting things you can maybe talk about.
Yeah.
We're pretty open.
And what I really like is, of course we've had Nicole on the podcast who has a podcast herself, and we connected through a Facebook group called Girls Love Travel. So there's that, connection there of the love of travel and being a girl who loves to do that. But on BBC Radio Sheffield on the breakfast show, they just have random local people on to tell their story, and I really like that as a concept. To just have, whoever you are, whatever you do, you don't need to be traveling the world, a digital nomad or anything like that. to have an interesting life. If anything, I think it's more interesting to hear about the normal things in a way. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think. Yeah. Sorry, I was just gonna say. I think talking to Nicole as well, we found it really interesting learning about her role in law. So yeah, I think whoever you are, whatever you do, everyone's got a story to tell, and we'd love to hear yours.
Yeah, I particularly enjoyed the lawyer stories from the last episode. I don't think we originally went into the episode knowing that would be a big part of it, and it really did become a big part of it because she's interviewed some really scary, bad people out there that have done some awful things. So it was interesting to get her insights into, what does that feel like? What sort of conversations do you have? Do they try and manipulate you? And, really, if you're sort of into that criminal mindset and you like watching all those dark documentaries on Netflix, then I do recommend giving it a listen because we talk about that for a good part of the episode. Yeah, it is good. And yeah, I also like the idea of interviewing what people may say are more mundane jobs. Like we mentioned, you've got a really cool postman. You've got a really cool postman. I've barely spoken to him, but I know who he is.
He's great. I love him.
Yeah, he's really kind. Like I've answered the door a few times. He's really kind. He looks a bit rock and roll. He
is actually because he's seen me walking Milo, and I've had my music on, and then he'll just kind of be air drumming as he's walking and stuff, and ask him what I'm listening to, and I mention it, and he talks about listening to rock and metal and stuff. So
sick.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah, so I'd love to interview someone like that. So yeah, give us a shout. But it was wonderful having Nicole on, and I think we did really well. We did plan out the episode, but we did allow ourselves to be flexible. And for our first guest, I've done podcasting. I run a podcast for my work, and I've run other podcasts. And we both listen to hundreds of podcasts, and I can confidently say that first episode of interviewing someone is on a much more higher level than any other podcast being their first interview. Without a shadow of doubt, there's no question in my mind. I know it for a fact. It was so much smoother. It was really interactive, good content. So the fact that we're starting at that level of maybe someone's interview of 80 or whatever it is, I think that's really good. And later on they're just going to get better and better.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
really enjoyed it.
Yes. What else has been going on, my darling?
Well, the love of my life has ran not a marathon but an ultra marathon. And for those who don't know, an ultra marathon is basically anything that is above a marathon. So it's how fast a marathon? 26 point.
Yeah, it's 26.6 or 26.2.
I think.
Yeah, 26.2.
So you could literally run 27 miles and that be classed as an ultra. Is that right?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, Scott hasn't just ran 27 miles, and not that you can really call it just. So he's ran actually double that. If I'm mathing correctly. Exactly. He ran literally 2 marathons back to back.
Exactly that, but yeah, exactly.
So it's 52 miles.
Yeah, 52 point something,
yeah. Which is insane. So it was in the north of Germany in a place called Oldenburger. And yeah, he was the token Brit. And they all loved that. Why don't you tell us about your experience, baby? I'm so proud of you.
Well, I shall. Thank you for the introduction. It was my I've always been a very motivated person. I'm driven in life. I've got that drive in me, so I'm always aspiring for goals each year. But definitely this year was the biggest one, and that was to run a 50-mile ultra. I've run for 9 years. I've dreamt of running a 100-mile run, and I've already vocalized it on this podcast that I'm going to do that. And this is the next step in that journey. But this is a big milestone in that journey because I've halved it. But it's significant because it's, double what I've ever done, double a marathon. And it's the biggest goal longest I've ever ran, longest I've ever run. It was 11 hours, 4 minutes of continuous running. You stop for like max 15 minutes at some aid stations, to get some nutrients in you, put some deep heat on your legs, just to sit down for a minute, do some stretches. But it's a continuous run. And it was fantastic. But let me sort of rewind a little bit because before it was pretty hectic. And that's, I find interesting because I'll sort of mention it, but let me tell you the story before it, because I've got to try and remember all the things that happened, because quite a lot of things maybe not went wrong, but I think I underestimated how many things we had to deal with before the race. And it wasn't things for the race, it's just traveling, working, doing things, seeing people. It's a lot, and it can get a lot sometimes. So we obviously we're in Italy, and fuck me, Naples, it's so loud, isn't it?
Outrageous. It is actually laughable. It's a stereotype of Italian drivers is no truer than in Naples. Just constant horns, constant beeping, mental.
Yeah, it's mental, and you'll hear some of those horns on the last episode with Nicole, because it's just so loud. So, dealing with that all the way the days of that week, really struggling to get good sleeps. Then we take the flight over, we land in Hamburg, we then have to jump in this car, which we'll tell you about later in the podcast, because that's a whole different discussion. And we get all the way to Oldenburg, and we had to deal. Well, actually, maybe we bring it up now because it is part of the story. We had to rent an electric car because because some countries will rent a car just to make the travel a little easier. And for some bizarre reason, the rental companies only offered electric cars. So we were like, okay, we'll get an electric car. But we've never driven one. But of course, we're open to it. And we gave it a go. And how was the experience for you, my darling?
Stressful. To drive, it was a nice drive. I think it was a bit bulky and a bit hard to manage. But in terms of the electric, basically you get as much charge as it takes to charge. So like, if you charge it for 3 hours, then you can drive for roughly 3 hours, and then you have to charge it again. And 3 hours is a full, so you couldn't charge it for 8 hours and get 8 hours. Like max charge is 3 hours basically. So it's a bit of a pain.
It was a right pain, and I do believe there are better electric cars out there where they're faster charging, they can last longer. But this one wasn't a good one. It looked rather nice, but God, we were charging it all the time, and then we had the nightmare of, like, naturally you'll have this nightmare with when you go to other countries, when you have apps that are local to that country. A lot of the time the app store won't let you download the app because your mobile was bought, in your country. So that's a whole problem, which I don't get why companies don't get over that, because it's ridiculous. Because people travel, and especially with electric cars, like, those apps need to be accessible on all devices. So I get really angry when that happens with apps. So we couldn't download a bunch of the apps to even be able to set the charging off. And I mean, it was crazy because how many charges did we have to do to get to Oldenburg?
None to get there.
So none to get there. But once we got there, we had to then get up in the morning, do some work. You were on classes all day, all in the morning. Mm-hmm. Then we both ran. We were pretty much running all the morning. We ran, and this is the day before the race. We ran to the supermarket. So we drove to the supermarket, tried to do it. The app didn't work, did it?
No. And and the guy was like, so we went to tell the guy who was the guardian of the car park.
Guardian.
Well, he was, because you had to pay to get in. But we said that we were charging the car. I said, okay, so you don't have to pay then. You just go and you pay for your charging.
And I like that.
Yeah, that's all. I think it's pretty much always the case that if you're going to charge your electric car, I mean, you're paying to charge it, so then you're kind of not having to pay twice, which I think is great. But yeah, we got over there, couldn't work it. Went back over to the guy, explained it to him, and he looked so solemn and like gutted, and he was like, I do not have a solution to this problem. Which I feel like is just the most German response ever. It was super nice, but yeah, it was quite stressful.
Yeah, and I've quite enjoyed that about Germans, is that they're very literal, and they're also, they will help you if they know how to help you, but they'll be very clear with you what they can and can't do.
Yes, absolutely. It's not like a case of, standing. Yeah, I feel like in the UK you'll have like 6 men stood around with their arms folded, pretending like they know how they can help you in some way, like they're there for moral support.
Yeah.
Whereas like in Germany, I think they'll be like, I can't help you, but good luck. See you later.
Yeah, and they're not dicks about it. They
not at all.
They'll be very clear. They'll be just upfront with exactly what they can and can't do.
Yeah.
And if they can do something, they'll go ahead and do it, and they're actually very helpful. But I at first I was a bit worried about that, but since experiencing it, I've actually quite enjoyed it. I found it quite refreshing.
Yeah, it's easy because then you know where you stand.
Yeah, it just sort of waste less time and you just get on with it. So I've enjoyed that. There's a couple of things we'll, in the travel segment we'll mention about the locals in Germany I've really enjoyed, which I think before I'd sort of preconceived notions that I might not. So that was a whole palaver. Then I had like 10. How long did I have? I had like less than an hour to my meeting.
Mm.
So I think did you drive back to the place then?
Yeah, so you mean the place with the guy that didn't have a solution to the problem?
What happened from the supermarket?
We both drove back to the apartment with like 2 minutes to spare for me, a class, and your meeting.
Yeah.
So we did that, and then once I'd finished my classes, that's when I drove off to a different one.
Somewhere in between there, I managed to get a run out, and in between that run, I had to run back to the supermarket to pick up food for us because we had no food. Ran back with food, and we were just driving and running everywhere because we had meetings, so we were just doing it in between meetings. And I spramped back, and I barely got on my meeting. It was like 1 minute, and I literally all sweaty and everything. Didn't get a shower and just got straight onto it. Put on an old top and just brush my hair back. Job done. It's the joy of just being on Teams calls. Anyway, what I'm trying to get over to is it was hella stressful.
So after we drove back and did the lessons, did the meetings and all that, I finished work before you did. So I was like, right, I'll go and drive and I'll find somewhere to charge it. And this was about 5 o'clock, maybe at the latest. So I drove over to a place that was on the Sixt app, which Sixt was the rental company that we used. And they had an app that showed you like all the locations of different charging points. So I drove over to this one that was like in the car park of just outside like a trailer park, like a cafe for the trailer park, I guess. And got it all plugged in, set up, went on the app. You had to pre-authorize €49. Like, it wouldn't use that. You get that in the States a lot as well, where you've got to pre-authorize, actually at home too, a certain amount, which means that they put a hold on your card for that amount, but it doesn't actually charge you that. So then if it was €30, then you'd get 19 back, for example. But it didn't work. So it didn't work the first time. Plugged it in. I was just like, right, looking at the thing, I was like, okay, I know I need to lock the car now. And then I locked it, but it wasn't charging. The QR code didn't work. I tried calling the company, and they were like, what's the number of the kiosk? But the QR sticker and all of that information peeled off. It was all faded away. It was covered in cobwebs, probably never been used. I asked someone I don't think I told you this, but I asked someone in the car park to help me as well. There was a family, and I was like, do you know how to use electric cars? And side note, first thing I said to her was, do you speak English? And she said a little bit. And that every single German says that and then proceeds to speak fluent English.
Yeah, that's very true. We did realise that. It's
so funny. Literally everyone was like, oh, a little bit. And then they'll be like, if you're asking for directions and say, oh, yeah, I speak a little bit of English. And they're like, well, you just meander past the babbling brook, cross the crooked bridge. They'll just say the most beautiful English phrases. And you're like, what do you mean you don't speak much English? You speak better than I do. So that's quite amusing. But yeah, so same with this woman. I was like, do you speak any English? And she said a little bit, and then she spoke perfectly and explained to me how she thought the electric car should be charging, but it wasn't working. So I tried another pre-auth of €49. I thought, right, and I even FaceTime my cousin who has a hybrid, and she was saying that you need to plug it in your car first and then into the kiosk. So I tried it that way. Locked the car again, tried, anyway, didn't work. So now I'm 2 times €49 down, no money left on that card. Went inside to the cafe, asked the guy in there if he knew, and he's like, not got a clue. Like, the kiosk's just there, we don't control it. So I'm panicking at this point, and I rang Sixt, the rental company that we got the car from, explained the situation, and he was like, well, the only solution I can give you is if you drive to a Sixt branch, we can charge it for you. I was like, well, the nearest one's 40 kilometres away, and I've currently got 30 left on it, so that can't happen. Like, what's another solution you can give me? And he basically said, computer said no to me. He was like, that's the only solution that it's showing on my end. I was like, well, can you put me through to someone who can give me a different solution? Like, can you send someone out to come and look at it because it's not charging and this is on your app? I've now paid for it twice. It's not working. Anyway, I got in a bit of a strop with him, and I was like, well, if you don't come and fix it, what happens then? Because I'll just have to leave it in a field. And he's like, in true German form with a literal speaking, well, if you leave it in a field, then you'd be liable for that. I was like, I'm not actually going to leave it in a field. Like, please fix this situation. What do I do? So then I looked on a different app, the Eon app, I think it was, and I managed to find a different kiosk that was at a hotel that was 11 kilometres away. Bearing in mind, I've got about 30 left on it. So I'm like, right, this is like Hail Mary, like, just get me there. Worst case scenario, it's a hotel, so I can sleep there, and I knew it had a restaurant. And I pulled up, plugged it in, managed to get it going. Did you want me to tell this long of a story, by the way?
No, carry on.
I plugged it in. Again, it wasn't working, but it did light up. This one was like a techier kiosk. So I rang Eon, and I was like, do you speak English again? He was like, no, not really. And I was like, the machine's not working. Then he explained to me in perfect form how to do it. And then it finally worked. So I was like, thank God for that. And I just went in the the restaurant of the hotel, sat and had a Coca-Cola, had a bit of a whew moment. And yeah, I just waited for it to charge up.
How much did it charge?
So it charged pretty slow. So like I was saying, it takes 3 hours to fully charge. So I think I sat there for 2 hours maybe, or an hour and a half. I got it to just over half filled, and then I managed to fill it fully properly the next day while you were running. So
it just goes to show, they're not that easy, these electric cars. Like, of course, once you know how to charge it, it's just you repeat. It'll be easy then. But I mean, I was surprised that they gave us an electric car. We told them we'd never used it, and they didn't give us any instructions.
Yeah, she was like, oh, it's easy.
Yeah, they just said it's easy, like, just, yeah, you'll know how to do it. And it took us about six times to do it. So, yeah, it was an absolute nightmare. And, I wouldn't want just an electric car. I would, I'd be maybe open to a hybrid, but only if it's got at least another, how many miles does yours do again?
Like 600, I think.
So 600 on a tank, and that
kilometers. I think it was 600 kilometers on my tank, and it's like 300 kilometers.
And 300 on this, and it wasn't always 300 on that. So if it's not hitting 600 on a hybrid, I won't be interested in the car.
Yeah.
So I think electric cars, like, maybe we tried a crap brand. It was the one that looked like a lightning bolt, like a
Opel, I think.
Opel. Maybe we tried a bad brand, but it still gives us insights to, we're happy with it because it gives us an insight to, what an electric car's like. But no chance would I have the patience for that. It was ridiculous how many times we had to really be strategic with all of our travel.
Yeah.
And we had to deliberately have to stop in places that we didn't intend to. We just had to, because we had to charge it into cages.
We even paid for a night in Hanover.
Yeah.
So that
literally did that, yeah.
Because it was a long drive, like it was like a 6.5, 7 hour drive, I think.
7 hours, yeah.
We'd have happily done that. but we knew that the car couldn't take it, and what would be a 7-hour drive would become a 10-hour drive because of 3 hours of charging. So that's why we ended up paying for a night to then leave it on charge overnight in a car park.
Yeah, not ideal. Really not ideal. Absolute nightmare. So, yeah, the electric car's not for us right now, unless there's a brand someone out there. You know, Teslas are out there. I don't know how good they are. Everyone goes on about them, so I'm sure they're much better. But I know we've sort of gone away from the race, but I was just trying to give some insight into the stress working up to it. And to add to that, we were working until about 1 a.m.
Oh my days! I still can't believe we did that.
Yeah, we were, because we were trying to figure out the car for ages. I had a bunch of work commitments that I had to do. I had a podcast recording that got rescheduled till really late. All my meetings got pushed till late, which was really annoying. So I had planned my day where I, had the later half of the day to just get ready for the run. So yeah, by the time I'd finished all meetings, podcast recording, and that's my work podcast I'm referring to, do all my work, it was like 10, and then I had to do all the nutrients management and plan all the race, figure out all the aid stations, figure out what time, the timings for every aid station, how I'm going to plan my race. So yeah, we didn't get to bed till like 1 a.m. and we had to get up at I think 5.
Well, before that we set off.
4.
Yeah, we got up at 4.
We got up at 4. I remember getting 3 hours sleep.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I got up at 4. So I had 3 hours sleep. I don't know about you, but I had 3 hours sleep, and it was broken sleep. And then you get up and you go run an 11-hour race. So, but what's interesting, so, I would never, I'm not going to do that again, because it was just, I did not feel great in that morning. I felt so sleepy that morning. And every other race when I've woken up, I've been so ready for it in my head. I've been like, I'm going to fucking smash this. But that morning, I was that dazed, I was confused. Like, it took me 5 minutes looking at my alarm to why it was going off. I couldn't figure out why my alarm was going off. I was like, why would it be going off at this time? So I didn't like that, because for the first 45 minutes of the day, I was like, my head isn't, like, I was getting confused. I couldn't make my breakfast. I didn't know whether to brush my teeth, put my shoes on. Like, once she was on the wrong foot, pretty much. So not a great start, but it just shows you, if someone, most people, if they start their day like that and they have a big challenge in front of them, they'll be like, right, it's obviously not going to happen today. But there's something to be said, when you lock something in and you can't get out of it. Well, of course, I have I could have easily not done it, but, I've come to this country to do it, There's a lot more pressure to do it. And of course, I do love it. It just goes to show you how far you can push yourself. And to be fair, this was the best I've ever felt during any ultra marathon. It's without question the best I've ever felt. Usually the end third, I'll get pretty delirious, pretty lightheaded. There was only 45 minutes of this entire race where I felt like that, and it wasn't that bad. It wasn't as bad as it usually gets. And I would say that was more down to just the sun being in my face all day. And there was a long part of the race where there was no shade, and it just beats you down. The sun just in your eye. Also, just getting sun in your eyes can like make you quite sort of funny on your sort of your head, but you feel a bit funny. So, but I think we really nailed the nutrients. I think I had so much isotonics. I was pissing non-stop. Every time I got to a point where I wanted to take a drink, but if I drank 2 minutes later, I'd be peeing.
Yeah.
So, which was funny.
Well, I was so worried though, because you came to me on I think it was aid station 3 where I first saw you, and you'd not drank anything, or hardly anything. And then when I saw you at the next one, which I think was aid station 5, you'd still not drank much, and I was really worried about you, that you weren't drinking enough. I was like, is he like delirious, or what's happening here? Because he's full of beans, like, seems really good, but he's not drinking any water.
I think because that's another thing, of nutrients, and you wanting to, really is when it comes to ultramarathons, other races, other challenges, other goals, you can, there's room for mistakes and you can still achieve things. When you push your body that far, the further you get, the less room for mistake, because, there may be a shoe that's ever so slightly tied too tight, or they're the pack may feel a little heavy, but it might feel very light at the start. But in the last third and the last quarter, you're going to feel everything, and it really is make and break. And every ultramarathon, there's DNFs, which means did not finish. No matter what ultra you do, if you look at the leaderboard after, there's going to be a bunch of DNFs on there. So there are people that go there ready, trained, set out to finish it, and they're not going to finish it. So, and it's for these reasons, because they just didn't quite plan or do the training. But a lot of it comes down to the planning. So the nutrients, I was a bit worried about, because I didn't have half my gels because of fucking security. They always take them off me. But I got this powder which had loads of isotonics. But anyway, I was confused to the measurements because I'd never used it before. So I just put a shitload in the water. And I think because I did that, it was quite tough to drink. It tasted nice, but my body was like saying, no, I don't want any more. Like I was drinking it, my body was like, just stopping drinking it. So anyway, we figured that out halfway through the race, and it got well better. And the second half of the race, the nutrients was better. And, I ate an entire chili and heel, which really helped during the race as well. So yeah, nutrients absolutely smashed out of the park. I've got a better understanding of how that powder works now. It's a lot more complete sort of nutrients. I hope this is interesting. I feel like we're just doing a catch up. I hope this isn't too boring for everyone.
I think it's extremely interesting.
I'll try sort of round it up just to give some sort of learnings. Is one, it just goes to show that even though with a chaotic start, you can still get it done if you've put in the training. And that's why I train so hard. If you train hard enough, and, what I aim to do is train harder than what the race I'm going to do. I didn't, of course, run that length before, but you can still train to a point where you're going to feel it. There's ways of doing that. So I do that, and it means on game day, it's not going to be necessarily be a breeze, but it's going to feel much easier than you ever thought it would be. And it was much easier than I thought it'd be. So that really shows you that, even if you have a crazy start to it, it still works out if you put the hard work in. And the real learning at the end of it as well, of course, there's gratitude, there's pride, at the end of it to really finish. And it was so good to achieve that goal, because it definitely is taking a real commitment to get there. But usually at the end of every race, I will speed it for the last sort of mile, and I do that because I like to finish strong. I like to take a few places. People are usually dragging themselves over that finish line, so I just sort of bolt past a bunch and I go up a couple of positions. But I had a bit of a realization this time, where I didn't do that, because I made in the running community, it's like the rock community, you make great friends. And this particular guy, Bjorn, we ran pretty much the entirety of the second half of the race together, just willing each other on. Naturally, when you're side by side with people like that who have the same, driven by the same crazy passion, and you're going to some pretty, you go into your limits, you get into some pretty deep conversation quite quickly, and you're with each other for it's 11-hour race. So naturally, you don't just talk about surface level stuff, your head's can't be asked for that. So you get straight into, serious chats about, about family, about death, about children, about relationships, and it's pretty unique that you have that level of deep conversation with someone who you've only met that day. And, I quickly connected with this guy, and he was, just a really nice guy. And, we willed each other through. And he was chatting about his daughter throughout it. And I didn't realise, but his family were actually there right at the end, ready to cheer him on. And we came on, and you finished it on like a running track. And he sort of took the hand of his daughter, which again I didn't know she was even gonna be there, and he ran around the track with her, which I just thought that
was really beautiful.
Yeah, it melted my heart, and in that moment, I realised it's not about me now sprinting and cutting a bunch of places for the glory to rub my ego. It's about this friendship that I built. It's it's about all these people that have run this race. We're just here with a crazy desire to push ourselves and the love for running, and let's just help each other over the line and get over together. It's not about trying to win. And for me, that's, the biggest win I've ever had in any race. And it's a real learning that I'm going to take on for future races and just life in general, to be honest. So I'd say that.
That's really beautiful.
Summarizes it.
That's really beautiful. And I've been with you now for just over 3 years.
3 years. Anniversary was in Italy.
It was beautiful.
It was.
But I've been there with you for quite a few runs now.
You have.
Number one pit crew, and
incredible.
I've never seen you look so good. So just so healthy and not haggard. Like, yeah, it's incredible. Like, to see you come over that finish line and just I could do another 10K. It was just amazing. It really impressive. Like, every time I saw you, like, yep. Like, in other ones, like, you've been not delirious, but like, not ready for a conversation. Whereas every time you saw me, you're like, yeah, I'm doing good, feel good, great, in a bit. Like, you're just really, really at the top of your game, my darling. You're doing so well, and I'm so proud of you.
Thank you, baby. This is the first ever kiss on the podcast.
Funny story about that as well.
Yeah.
I sent Scott's mum a video of him crossing the finish line. So naturally, he crossed the finish line. He, high-fived people, hugged people, came over to me, and then I was still recording.
Yeah.
And put like camera facing down, and we're like, well done, mate. So good. Like about 6 kisses.
Yeah.
and
with like
then,
the camera like on your elbow or something.
Yeah, or like almost practically on your crotch as well. It's
on
like
my
pointing
crotch.
down.
Yeah.
And then so I brought it back up again to sort of do a mini interview with him.
Mm-hmm.
And I said it to his mum, like, without watching it, without thinking about it, but just as like, oh, look how well he did, and like this thing crossing the finishing line. Anyway, I don't know if your mum watched the whole video or if she just saw it and was like, I'm gonna post it on Facebook. So
it's very embarrassing because I know she would do a post, but I'd have thought she'd have vetted the video. And I don't go on Facebook, but Shelby will tell me if something goes on Facebook about me. And yeah, it has like 30 plus comments of like family members I've not spoken to in a while.
Aww.
Yeah, it's quite highly engaged. I've just gone and liked them all. I don't want to spend more than 30 seconds in Facebook, but I've just liked them all. But yeah, it was just, I was laughing my head off when I saw it.
It was funny. Because it's like 15 seconds of just kissing.
Yeah, it is pornographic.
It really is.
But I messaged Mum about it, but I said, please, don't take it down. It's funny as fuck. It's funny as fuck. Like, it's fine. we can poke fun.
So many candids of us kissing in the background of things happening.
Oh yeah. I think on Ethan's birthday,
and his 21st in Newcastle.
Yeah, 21st is a photo that went on Facebook, and it's just us snogging in the background.
You can just like, because we're not even like, we're nowhere near the foreground of it. Like, there's people at the front having a picture taken, and there's just us like in the shadows having a snog.
And again, this isn't as 16 years old. This is us in the ripe old age of 30 now. So
I'm 32.
I'm 32. So in your 30s, you can still be teenagers.
Absolutely.
Wildly in love.
We really are.
We really are. We're lucky ducks.
Yeah.
We're very lucky ducks. So and Shelby is an incredible pit crew. She refuses to accept that I could do that I couldn't do it without her, but I really couldn't, because otherwise I'd be carrying all that nutrients. I'd have to carry all the different creams I put on my legs at each, and that'd be so. Like I was saying at the start, honestly, when you get to that last quarter, the weight, the shoes, the clothing, everything, you feel it all. And if it starts to irritate you, it can really break down your race. And if you get negative towards the last quarter, it can be make and break for people. So having Shelby there, to do all the running piece that I need support with, but the secondary piece, which is a massive push, is just having that familiar face, the love of my life, there to hug me, will me on, saying you're doing great, keep going. it just gives you that, next sort of adrenaline you need. So you're having a huge impact on it.
You put a big smile on my face.
My darling.
So proud.
We won't get pornographic again on this podcast. We're open to things on this podcast, but that might be a step too far.
I think it probably is.
But yeah.
Well, yeah, from Italy we flew into Hamburg for that race, didn't we?
Well, after that race, we drove to Hamburg, didn't we?
Yes, yeah. So flew into Hamburg, drove to that place for the race.
Yeah.
You did the race. And then we drove to Hamburg. We didn't have too long in Hamburg. We only had like 8 hours maybe. I don't know exactly how long we had there.
I don't think we were even there for that long. But we got there early. We were able to do a lot. Well, we didn't do too much. We did Miniature World. Yeah. Which is the biggest miniature world. And we did...
The biggest miniature world.
The biggest miniature world, however, and I'll tell you about that in a moment. Let me just go through the other things we did. We had a hamburger.
We did.
Obviously a vegan one. And we saw the red light district.
Yes, we and the Beatles Platz.
Yeah, we never planned, but we always seem to find we always seem to end up in the red light district wherever we go.
We do. I don't know how it happens. It's quite startling.
It's pretty funny, isn't it?
Yeah. But the reason that we ended up there was because, so I'm a massive Beatles fan, and I knew that there was a lot of Beatles history in Hamburg. Not necessarily a lot to see, but just Hamburg played a really important role in shaping the Beatles sound, and I believe it's where they got signed initially, like where they were scouted. So like they played a lot of gigs in 1969, 61, and I think they recorded their first music there actually. Like I should know more about this, but basically I knew that Hamburg was important for the Beatles, and so I really wanted to do something Beatlesy in Hamburg. Like I did actually look up tours online, but it doesn't seem like any of them are running at the minute. Like there were ones on Airbnb and stuff, and Get Your Guide, but they just didn't have anything. And then you found the Beatles Platz, which was like a like metallic outline statue of the Beatles, and it's set on a giant circle that's meant to be a record. So that was pretty cool, but it just so happens to be smack bang in the middle of the red light district.
Also opposite a Hooters.
Yeah, right opposite a Hooters. Right outside a strip club, a 24/7 strip club.
There was a lot of strip clubs.
There's so many.
There was a lot, and they were big.
Yeah,
it was. Yeah, I feel like we don't have that in the UK. Oh, I don't know where that is in the UK. Like we have strip clubs, but I've never been in a street of the UK where it's that many strip clubs.
Yeah, exactly. Like I don't know that it is a thing.
Yeah, I've not seen that before.
Maybe actually, isn't Soho in London meant to be quite?
I don't know. I've been to Soho.
Yeah, Soho's great. It's a
and I've been to like
hippity happening place, but
places where you get drunk and eat, and I didn't see a strip club.
Yeah.
They might be a bit more conspicuous.
I'm just thinking about the song Lola. Met her in a club down in Old Soho.
Yeah, but this one was like a full, road, and it was all LED lights, everything. It was full on. We are the red light district.
Yeah, like literal red lights.
Yeah. I know we learnt one thing.
So, interesting thing about Hamburg. Not only is it famous because of the Beatles' history and all that around them getting signed there and it shaping their sound, but what not many people realise is that the hamburger is so called because of Hamburg the place. I think a lot of people believe that, it's made from ham and it's a ham burger, and people often wonder, well, why is it called a hamburger if it's made from beef? And the reason is because it comes from Hamburg, the city in Germany, and it was actually German immigrants to America who sort of popularised it and brought it over to the States. And interestingly, of Harold and Kumar fame, the White Castle, founded in 1921, was actually the first fast food chain to popularise hamburgers in the US. So it's not McDonald's as you might have thought, and it's not made of ham like you might have thought, but it's just a burger from, well, I suppose it's called burger because it's from Hamburg.
Exactly that. And I find that interesting because I feel a bit silly because I genuinely didn't know the hamburger was from Hamburg.
Yeah, and I think most people think, oh, I'm going to get a hamburger in Hamburg just because it sounds the same, thinking like they're being funny. Like, well, no, actually you should, because that's where it's from.
Yeah, it's where it originated from. As much as it was developed in the US, it was the Germans started it.
Yeah. I was really excited that we managed to find a place that had a couple of vegan hamburgers.
Yeah, that was awesome, and that was really nice. That was a good place. That had only just opened as well, didn't it?
Yeah, it was like 2 months old, I think. They have so many positive reviews.
Yeah, it was nice. And that's another cool thing we've learned about Germany. Do you want to tell them? It is the...
Oh, I'm going to make a big statement here, and I'm going to stand by it. Germany is the most vegan place I've ever been in the world.
And I back that as well.
Literally every restaurant has things labelled on it, and people understand it. You don't need to explain what it is. They just know. Italy was good, but there were times when I got a mini pizza and they told me it was vegan, and I re-checked it. Is it vegan? Yeah, it's vegan. Asked a third time, can I just clarify, is this without dairy? Senza latte. I don't know. I didn't know it at the time. I think it's without milk. And the guy was like, no, there's no milk. Well, except in the mozzarella. I was like, so it's not vegan then.
That's so true. Yeah.
It was quite funny there. But yeah, in Germany, everybody gets it. There's entire rows of a supermarket that are vegan items, including vegan meat substitutes, vegan cheeses. There's salami. I got you a chorizo salami earlier.
Yeah, and
mozzarella.
I love chorizo, and I find that hard to find, so I was absolutely over the moon with that.
You've even got the thin slices of beef with the peppercorns on the outside. That kind of thing. They've got cordon bleu.
What's that?
It's like a schnitzel with ham and cheese inside it. I think anyway. Asking the vegan what it is. But literally everything, anything you could possibly want in a vegan version, like vegan sour cream, which is pretty hard to come by in the UK.
The feta here is great.
Yeah, which that actually can get in the UK. It's the Violife one, and it's brilliant. Yeah, so many options, over the moon.
Yeah, so we've been to a lot of places. India is, the highest populated area of vegetarians. And whilst it is, does note a lot of vegetarian, in every restaurant and shops, it notes down what's vegetarian. Veganism isn't quite as good as it is here.
Yeah, vegetarian for sure, India, because literally everything is labelled. Labelled so clearly with a little green square and circle thing.
Yeah, it's really nice. Yeah. But here, I think I remember France being quite good.
France was good, but nothing like this. Yeah. If you think about that supermarket that we went in near our Airbnb, it had some good options, but it wasn't entire rows of a fridge. So yeah, here for sure is the most vegan friendly place I've been.
Totally agree. I'm really interested to see what China's going to be like.
I don't think it's going to be good.
So that's the thing. I would assume that's probably going to be the worst place of vegan, just because we've been to countries close to it, and it's been a struggle to explain it. Like even Japan, it'd be that you'd have to seek out a vegan restaurant. It wasn't very clear. I can't remember in the shops if it was clear.
No, we had to translate everything.
Yeah, it wasn't at all. So yeah, and Malaysia, Singapore. So
Malaysia was pretty good actually, because they had a lot of international brands in that supermarket in Village Grocer.
That was the best supermarket. Village Grocer in Ampang in Malaysia. The greatest supermarket. Just so logical. Everything is where you'd expect it to be. They had, I don't know, but they just they had brands I didn't know, but when I tasted those brands, they were the best. Just had the best coffee, the best cheese, the best juice. It was just wow, this is the best. This is the best brand. This is the best. So they just have, I don't know, a really good supply chain apparently.
Oh, and that lychee squash.
It was great, yeah. And you're mad about lychee, aren't you? So,
Yeah, I could have drank that neat.
yeah, oh my God, that would have been awful. Yeah, so... Yeah, but anyway, bit of education on veganism. Maybe we'll have to do an episode on, the most vegan-friendly countries and sort of break it down a bit.
Yeah, that sounds like a plan.
Yeah.
I mean, I know from going to Hong Kong, which at the time I thought I couldn't eat gluten, and I know that Hong Kong was really hard. Like I lived off of rice and pak choi, which isn't the worst thing. Like I love both those things.
Pak choi is one of the most choked on vegetables in the world.
Fun fact.
Fun fact. But I want to revert back to the miniature world in Hamburg. So the miniature world in Hamburg is the biggest miniature world on Earth. And it's nuts. It's absolutely nuts. It's on 2 floors in 2 different buildings. And it's crazy. So it's got a fully operational airport where you can watch planes as they prepare for takeoff, literally experience the process of the passengers boarding to taxiing, being in the queue for the runway, and then actually going down a runway and flying. And genuinely, it flies. And this is completely programmed. No one's controlling it or anything. Just it's programmed to this. It's been built. It's nuts. There's a full F1 circuit of Monte Carlo, complete replica. There's even a pit stop. The carts actually stop in the pit stop. The service guys come out, do some work, and then it carries on. Even on the corners, it has live TV screens which show you real replays of those corners of F1 carts taking those corners. It's nuts. And then there's a cheering crowd. It's so realistic, and the amount of effort gone in is so interesting and so impressive. There's the Swiss Alps. There's even like specific leisure centres, that you've never heard of, but you go, oh wow, that if you've been to that leisure centres and randomly in the Swiss Alps, it's there. It's very specific. You can jump to Rio carnivals in Brazil's to watching even boats dock from port to port, and there's this really incredible wave system that uses lights and this like dynamic moving floor, and it simulates the conditions of a storm for all these boats. It's really cool. So really impressive. And if you're not already impressed, then let me hit with you some more facts. It has over 16,491 meters of track, 1,231 trains, over 12,000 wagons, 521,500 LEDs, 157,000 trees. It took 50,000 man hours to build, and it costs over 4.5 million euros. That's about $5 million or 3,750 million pounds. So I recommend it. It's a pretty cool place. So yeah, I think you guys should go see that. I think it's a pretty cool place. So I hope that gives you some facts on Miniature World. Did you enjoy it, baby?
I did enjoy it. Yeah, it was recommended to us by my... Did you already know about it, or is it just when...
No, I learned it through...
Daisy and Connor?
Through Connor, yeah.
Yeah, so my cousin and her partner have been fairly recently, and they said like it was really cool, and yeah, I think it was fascinating. Like they dimmed the lights. I don't know what the cadence was of how frequently they did that, but they turned it into nighttime and then back into daytime.
That was cool.
So you got to see the different sort of structures and everything lit up. It was quite interactive as well. Like you could push buttons and somebody would rock climb, or
I even missed that.
People would ice skate, things like that. It was really cool, very interactive, and after a bit, I got sick of the night to day to night to day. Because
that did get a bit annoying.
Yeah, some things were really impressive in the dark, and I can really see the benefit of doing that for those particular sort of areas. But generally speaking, I think it was better in the daytime. Like I got a bit sick of it going dark.
It did look better in daytime for a lot of it.
Mm-hmm.
It really did. It's a really cool thing. I think it's pretty inexpensive, so it's the biggest one in the world. We like ticking off, the biggest or the best in the world.
Yeah, it was like €20 each, something like that, was it?
Yeah, maybe that's a bit dear, but yeah.
I think that's reasonable for a day out at like a museum type thing.
Yeah. It was quite busy. Just a heads up on that.
Oh yeah, it was, wasn't it?
So try find out when it's not as busy because
yeah,
it is.
You got to book a time slot as well, haven't you?
Yeah, try to figure out because people get in the way, and no, I feel like I got barged quite a few times.
Yeah.
So we want to now do our travel segment.
Yes.
My favourite segment of the episode.
Me too.
This is Shelby's special. So she introduced this.
I did.
Thank you, baby. So favourite and least favourite thing about last country, Italy. Go.
Well, my favourite thing would have to be...
I was trying to catch you off, catch you off guard then. So you but you actually nailed it. Fair enough.
Well, no, not really, because I was like then gonna like just try and think through. My favourite thing about Italy was, I mean, it'd be easy to say the food, or the beautiful scenery, or anything like that. But I think how inexpensive, or how reasonably priced it was my favourite thing about Italy.
That's a really good thing.
Because I mean, we paid a lot for the accommodation. That's the most we've ever paid on an accommodation for a month. We paid, I think, around £1,500 for the month, which is the most we've ever paid for any accommodation. Like Malaysia was 500 odd for the month.
Yeah, and it was a beautiful apartment. It was a bigger and better apartment.
Yeah, I mean, it was lovely what we had, but Malaysia was much bigger, balcony and all separate rooms and swimming pools and corn shops and all that. But it was a beautiful accommodation in a castle. But everything else I think made up for that, because it was you could get pizza for €5. So how inexpensive it was my favourite thing. And my least favourite thing...
Whoa.
Sorry. Yeah, go ahead. What was your favourite thing?
My favourite thing... That's a really good one. I might be boring to say the food because the food was bloody great. No, oh god, how can we not say the food? Because the pizza and the pasta was so good. But there's actually one that is probably more me. I wish you said food now. No.
Why, so you could say money?
No, because for me, I like... No, I'll stick with the food. The food was great.
Go on, you can have a second best.
Pizza and the pasta was just honestly the best pasta and pizza I've had. And at home I would always get double and triple toppings on pizzas of stacked with everything. But in Naples I was just like, all I need is a margarita or a marinara. I said it. I've been struggling to say that word. So Shelby gave me a thumbs up then. And marinara is just tomato based, but it's amazing.
So rich and delightful.
Yeah,
and the quality of the dough.
Doughy. It's the dough that I think it's the dough that you really went. Because if you had that at home, it'd be shit.
Yeah.
But
yeah, it really would.
Yeah. It felt like putting toppings on was ruining it.
Yeah.
Like, which just blew my mind. So yeah, pizza. And when I had pasta, it was so good. So yeah, food's great for those two food items, which we just had like every day. The other one, which I'll say as a side one, was just Naples is in such a great location because you're able to so easily experience a lot of cool things. So Pompeii is an hour train away. Amalfi Coast is a 2 hour boat away. Rome is like an hour and a half away. You could even go as far as Sorrento. Well, you can go Sorrento and everywhere. So it's a really good central location because you can experience a lot of cool places and a lot of really interesting architecture history in one place. So it's a really good location. But what's your least favourite thing about Bari?
Well, I'm pretty sure we're going to say the same thing.
Yeah.
Do you know what? I'm just going to go steps then, actually, so that you can take the other thing. There's a lot of stairs in Naples, and I really hated how many stairs there were. Really hurt my bottom, but it's done it good. So
Shelby's bottom is very pert right now. It's beautiful.
Thank you.
It is beautiful. For me, the stairs were annoying, but for me, actually, the stairs were quite good because it helped in my running training. Yeah. So it was actually quite good. It absolutely blitzed me, but it was good. But when I wasn't training, it sucked. Because Naples is just like on a hill. So it's just
a very steep one.
A very steep one. So wherever you go, you're either going up or down. For me, yeah, it was the roads. They were just, there was no rules. It's if you want to experience a country that is as close to the feel of Mumbai, it's Naples. It's not as crazy as Mumbai, as, or sorry, not even specifically Mumbai, just India in general, with the cities. It's Naples. It's mental. There's no one listens to the lights. Everyone, I saw about 3 people run red lights. Yeah, everyone's holding the horns down, and not just like just a pip, like just got the hand on the horn for like 5 seconds.
Yeah,
and 5 seconds is a long time when you're just holding a horn, and a lot of the time they're holding the horn not because, like, sometimes they're just holding a horn because they just want to get around them. The person in front of them is doing nothing wrong. They're going the speed limit. They're driving. But they'll just hold the horn on them until they like get out of the way. And the roads in Naples, they're narrow. They're not made to be taken over. It's just 2 lanes. There isn't. But we saw it. There was 2 crashes. One we heard because we're next door. We literally just heard the noise. We were like, oh, that sounded like a crash. We looked out, there was. And when I ran, I found another crash that must have just happened. I'm not surprised there's crashes because there's, to summarise the locals of Italy, they take all the time in the world, but they have no patience. And that is my experience of Italians.
I think that's a perfect summary.
Yeah.
But also super fun and nice.
Yeah, they're really fun. Like a quick tip, if you don't speak Italian, you will find initially when you go to approach an Italian or you want to engage with people locally in a shop, whatever, they don't have a very welcoming vibe. And that's not them being rude. It's just whether it's their resting face, or it's their posture, or it's the way they're communicating. I don't know, whatever it is. They don't have, I didn't feel that they had a welcoming vibe. But the second you engage with them, they're great.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I think that's, and when they realise you're not Italian as well, I feel like it changes a bit because they're so passionate about their everything, I guess. Like the guy making the pizza, when he was like, he looked like he was fuming, like probably like, just throwing pizza in, like frowning, and then he came out with a pizza box and said to the owner, who's it for, but in Italian. And then when the owner gestured towards us, he goes, there you go, grazie mille, like really smiley and happy that we'd got his pizza. But
I was nervous that entire time because we decided to get a takeaway. And I think they were a little offended by that because, part of the experience is just having it there fresh. And the chef, the whole process of making it, he just seemed so pissed off.
It's like throwing the thing
he
in
was
there.
smashing things, he's shouting.
But then, like, when he was putting the pizza on there, like they have the long stick that they put the pizza in the oven with. Like, he very delicately, like, stretched out the pizza. He's really, really gentle with it and really, like, you could see there was a lot of passion in what he was doing, which is really wonderful to see. And then he put it in, and then he was, like, huffing and puffing, and then put it in the box, and then was super nice, so.
Yeah, so that's something we learned. There's a lot of passion in how Italians converse, and quite a lot of energy in the arms and the voice, and can be quite loud. But it's not, there's no aggression, it's just a lot of passion.
And I feel like there can be a lot to learn from that in terms of other cultures, because we make assumptions that another person is rude from that but it's just a different culture. Like, like in some countries, if you leave a gap in a queue, they will fill that gap because they just assume you're not ready to order yet. We'll interpret that as rude, they interpret it as, well, you're not ready, so I'm going. So I think, just being mindful of, like, don't just go straight to, oh, they're rude in our assumptions. I think, isn't it? Like, we've learned that there's a deeper cultural reason behind why people do things most of the time. And, we just all need to be a bit more tolerant.
You do. Take your time to actually engage with the locals. If you just... It's like anything, isn't it? It's saying, oh, I don't like baked beans. Have you tried baked beans? No, but they smell funny. Yeah, but you haven't tried them, have you? You know, if you just look at people conversing, you think, oh, that person was rude to them.
Yeah.
You don't even know what they're fucking saying. You don't know what the context was.
Yeah.
But the second you engage with them, actually, oh no, he's a sweetheart.
Exactly.
So, yeah. And we've gone over the time we said, but what was the first impressions of Germany, my darling?
Without a doubt, well, see, there's two things. I mean, I've already said the vegan thing. And but my first impression was how well everyone speaks English, but doesn't believe they can speak English. I don't know if that's a first impression or a first observation, but yeah, that's it.
That's a good one. Yeah, they all do speak great English. My first impression was an odd one. It was how similar the environment is to the UK. So I grew up in the countryside, so did Shelby. And it's just so similar. Like there are differences, you know, in Germany, but I mean, just purely looking at environment and driving down the motorways and coming off onto the country roads, I couldn't tell I was in Germany for a few hours. I was like, have we touched down in the UK? It was just such a similar feel. So that was surprising. I would say I know German people won't like that, but in some cases the environment is it feels like a carbon copy of the UK. And when you get into it and you know start engaging and eating things and get involved in things, it's different. There's a lot of differences, but I mean just from the eyes, you know, if you look at an image online on Google Maps and it looks very similar to the UK, and I thought it was interesting.
Particularly, I think where we're from, I think particularly Yorkshire.
Yes, I'm focusing more into the countryside piece. You know, when you get into the cities, the architecture is quite different. But yeah, we've had a wonderful episode.
We have.
Quite an informative one. But yeah, we love you all. That's a new ending. We thank you for taking a break from your day to get balls deep with us. Until next time, remember, stay ballsy.
Dive deep, but don't forget your snorkel.
Balls deep.